Hello, happy Tuesday, and such nice weather. Thanks for joining us and not going out and walking and riding and stuff. So it's Tuesday, March 15th, 7 o'clock, and this is the meeting of the Urbana Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. Could we have a roll call?
All right. Bill Brown.
Here.
Annie Adams. Kara Dudek.
Here.
Cynthia Hoyle. Here. Audrey Ishii. Susan Jones.
Here.
Jeff Marino.
Here.
Bruce Michelson's out tonight. Sartak Prasad.
Here.
Nancy Westcott.
Here.
John Zeman.
Here.
And did Annie Adams come in?
Audrey is here.
Okay, I saw you.
Okay.
All right, looks like we have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. Oh, there's Annie.
Got her.
Oops. Okay, got her. Okay, thanks. So next is additions to the agenda. Are there any additions? Seeing none, we have a pretty full agenda. Next is approval of minutes from February. Did everybody get a chance to review those? Are there any corrections?
I have a correction. So under announcements, just wanted to make sure that it's reported correctly. Like, we are doing a mode choice survey going out maybe in 2 weeks, and I would present that maybe in May, not in April. I think I said that, but may have been wrong. Yeah.
So change April to May.
Yes.
Okay. Any other corrections? If not, could we have a motion for approval?
So moved. This is John.
I'll second.
It's moved by John and seconded by Jeff. Any further discussion? If not, could we have a roll call?
All right, Bill Brown.
Yes.
Annie Adams.
Yes.
Kara Dudek.
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle.
Yes.
Audrey Ishii. Susan Jones.
Yes.
Jeff Marino.
Yes.
Sartak Prasad.
Yes.
Nancy Westcott.
Yes.
John Zeman.
Yes.
And Audrey, I didn't hear from you.
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next is public input. Did anyone from the public wish to speak? I don't see Charlie's hand up. I guess that means he doesn't want to talk. Okay. The next is unfinished business. BPAC goals from 2023. Kara, did you get a chance to work on that?
Yeah, definitely. Let me share my screen. Can everybody see it okay?
Yep.
Alrighty. So we had the topic brought up last meeting about 1 year goals for BPAC, and we brainstormed a bit, and then I just suggested that maybe we could have some time to think on our own about goals, and then have everyone send them to me and sort of put them together, and then we could talk about them again and maybe have a more informed discussion about it, and therefore hopefully have some solid goals for the next year. So a little bit about what I did. I just received the draft goals from the BPAC members that sent me them. And Audrey, I saw your email when I logged into my work before this, but I haven't included them yet. But I wanted to let you know that I did see them. And then I compared the goals with what we talked about in February, so what was in the meeting minutes. I added all those to a Word document and grouped by similar topic, removing some of the repeats. And then I just put them in groupings of similar topics. And the, in case you're curious what the repeat topics were, I took that as maybe some things that were higher priority or more important if more people commented on them. And that was the bicycle friendly community application, the implementation of Vision Zero, review of the bicycle and pedestrian plans, the equity and quality of life project, and then collaborating with city staff in ways that we can communicate with the public or do social media blasts or things like that. So I grouped them into pretty utilitarian themes for now, and that was things that involved research and planning, evaluation and response, topics that are goals that were around culture and communication, equity, and then there was some pretty specific to just applications. And I'll talk a little bit more about each. So some of the things that fall under research and planning were planning and policy documents, improving data that we use in our planning, and then research on some best practices. And so one of the goals here at the top was evaluating technological options for improved pedestrian lighting, especially at critical locations. And then you can see there's some strategies underneath there as well for motion activated brightness control or automatic detection of pedestrians. The next one was to complete a Vision Zero action plan. One of the goals was about wrapping our heads around how other municipalities are responding to e-bike popularity and just having the knowledge of that as it needs to be included in any planning and policy development in the future. And then a desire to improve crash data quality and timeliness in a more systematic reporting so that we can use that information to have more informed planning and implementation of our projects. Do we want to talk about each topic, or should I just go through all of it first and then we can come back?
I'm okay to keep going for now. Is that okay with everybody? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there's only 2 slides per topic, so it shouldn't take too terribly long.
Okay.
So next was what I grouped into evaluation and response. So reviewing existing plans, policies, and initiatives, but not only reviewing them, but then following up on some of the things that come from that review. So conducting an annual review of the pedestrian master plan, completing a 5-year review of the bike master plan, and suggestions for an update as needed. Reviewing just all of the plans that the city has in regards to the work we do and look for opportunities to implement these goals for improving cycling and walking systems. Coordinating with partner agencies and asking for annual updates. So where do we have overlap? Sort of researching what other entities are doing and how can we make planning together and using our resources together for more productive projects. And some of the suggested agencies were CUATS, MTD, Urbana Park District, and the City of Champaign. Another was to provide input to staff and City Council on existing council initiatives related to walking and cycling. And then there was a goal about taking another look at the snow removal ordinance. Culture and communication was the third topic. So growing the city's bicycle and pedestrian friendly culture, and then how do we communicate these values through our projects, our actions, what BPAC does, different communications. Firstly, to improve existing business processes or city culture to better represent the nature of a bicycle and pedestrian friendly city. And some sub-goals or strategies are recommending changes in department policies to systematically include bike and pedestrian concerns, developing public outreach and then working with the city's communications specialist to share those, and then taking into account bicycle and pedestrian needs when streets are closed. So that was, I think, was based on the discussion we had about, a street being closed for a long amount of time and because of some utility work, but then also bikes and pedestrians were also not able to get through safely anyways. Next is to be conscientious of limitations on city's staff's time and resources for taking on new initiatives. So a little bit about how BPAC interacts with the city. Encourage additional bike rack installation in Urbana. So it's a sort of a physical marker of a culture of bicycle friendliness. And then another one was discussing efforts for continuing education for BPAC members, such as workshops. So we can go and we can learn, that we can come back and then implement that into our community. The next topic was equity. So that involved implementing the Equity and Quality of Life project and also improving safety and accessibility. The first goal is just that, to implement the EQL project. The next is to work with BPAC partners, such as the city, MTD, PACE, and UIUC to improve transportation safety and accessibility for disabled and elderly persons. And so some of that is improving online information, audio bus schedules, bus stop design, audio walk signals, more about communications regarding the importance of sidewalk connectivity and maintenance, including snow removal, and allowing for safe travel. And then the last one is improve our understanding of barriers to safe transit for the disabled, and by designating a BPAC position like as a liaison to that community. And then the last one is improving technology that helps with automated pedestrian crossings. So I didn't necessarily go through and change the words that everyone used and maybe work some of the goals together, but this last one definitely fits in with the one above it. Lastly, the super glamorous topic I came up with as applications for funding and program recognition. So first is an ITEP grant, reviewing the grant criteria and helping determine what projects are relevant, and then helping to recommend that project and obtain letters of support and maybe some other parts of the application that we could help with. Apply for renewal of the bicycle friendly community gold status by reviewing new criteria and then working with RPC. And then lastly, there was a specific goal to applying for funding for Vision Zero, whether that's planning, creating a plan, or implementation. I'm not too sure, but we can be more specific. And then a last slide, I just had some thoughts on next steps we should discuss as a group, because this was just me looking at the goals and grouping them in, my perspective, and it definitely should be everyone's perspectives. We can refine the themes if we would like, definitely refine the goals and make sure that they're measurable. And then I found that something that works well when we do planning at the Park District is when you assign a group or an interested party to a goal, it happens to get done sooner and with more enthusiasm. Whether it's a specific person or a committee or, we know that we need to reach out to the Park District or to RPC or whatever, we could just add that as a responsible party within our goals. And so we can help to move it forward in that way. That's all I have.
On that last one, when you're talking about assigning responsibility, are you talking about for each of those goals or for the goal process? I'm not sure exactly.
So it could be like a specific goal, like the Vision Zero ones should be assigned to the Vision Zero subcommittee that we have. Maybe something regarding bike racks would be something that's relevant to me. Or there could be a few people who would want to work on all the ones that have to do with equity or all the ones that have to do with planning. So just seeing where interests lie as far as specific goals and moving them forward.
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. I think we might be safer calling them task force than committees. I think if it's a committee, task force can be 3 people. I think if it's a committee, run into maybe some issues with Open Meeting Act and having to record your meetings and everything, but we can look into that.
Okay, yeah, whatever you want to call it, mostly just a subset of BPAC.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I think that's a lot of work. So where should we start? You want to just go back to the beginning again and go through it again and let people raise their hands or chime in? Can't see everyone's hands, so
I have my hand raised. I just want to say, Cara, this is absolutely fantastic. This is just wonderful. And I like the idea of assigning people tasks. And I will be more than happy to help figure out the culture and communications. And then what I could do, but I love how organized this is. I love the way you put this together. I could then come up with whatever, if we want to continue to call it culture and communications, I could come up with a 12-month strategy. And then this is what, I could even make the social media posts or whatever, however we want to do it, what they are. And then we can all either agree or disagree that this is what it should be or it shouldn't be. So I think that, and it just seems like a nice way to assign. And what I like too about this is this all seems very actionable and doable. So thank you. I really appreciate this. This is great.
Sure. Yeah. So it sounds like you're not necessarily drawn to a specific goal, but that overall topic, and then just working through those goals as we can.
how about as far as the volume of the goals? Do people think that this is too much, or we need to further prioritize or try to scale back or anything?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that maybe, I mean, 1 per topic, maybe 2 if we think it's, valuable, but I think it'd be good to set, if we set 5 goals and we meet them, we can come back to this.
Okay. Anybody else?
Cara, can you show us do you have one page with the goals, with all of the goals outlined with the big headers like research and planning, culture and communications? Do you have one slide with that?
Yeah.
This
There you go.
or
Yep,
okay.
that was it.
Yeah, we could just do one, prioritize them, leave them all up there, but figure out which ones to tackle first.
Okay. Yeah, and prioritization can mean it's not just most important, but it could be easiest to achieve, or it takes a lesser amount of resources and you're more likely to get it done quickly. So I don't think you're devaluing any of them by putting them as a 4. It may just take more time and resources. And I'm fine with cutting some out too. This was just, all of the ideas that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what might be 2 things. What might be helpful is to go through and ask people to volunteer to take on specific ones. And that in and of itself prioritizes which ones we'll work on. The other thing I was going to suggest under your last one, which was implementation, or you called it, I forgot what you called it. The
applications.
Thank you. Yes. I was thinking maybe we should change that last one, apply for funding for Vision Zero, and other projects. One of the reasons why some of the other commissions have more staff support is they have a dedicated funding stream and some grant funding. And so I think if we could, for all the other things we want to do, if we could come up with more funding, that would make a big difference for our being able to implement a lot of this. So I would like to expand that bottom one for us to look at applying for funding. And then that brings me to another issue. I know, for example, Shannon at one point wanted to apply for a grant to do something, and it got nixed before it got internally at the city, before it was submitted. And so I think maybe we should have a conversation with the mayor's office about grants that we want to apply for, so that, we don't have that happen again. So I really appreciated her initiative in doing that. And after that, she didn't make an effort to apply for those different kinds of grants. I get announcements of grants all the time, and I've quit forwarding them because I don't know who's gonna put in an application or how to do it.
While we're on applications, let's just talk about these. So the ITEP grant comes up every 2 years now, I think. So this year is definitely a year. And that's one of the main sources we have for getting funding, although we've rarely
Infrastructure.
we've rarely been successful.
Mhm.
I don't remember the last time Urbana.
It was when Jennifer was here.
Okay.
Jennifer got 2 big grants.
But the park district's been pretty successful, and we apply for them. So I don't know. It seems like that should be a priority. And then the bicycle-friendly community, it's kind of a given that when that comes up, we should apply for it. But we don't have to. We could let it expire. But it's probably not. It probably does us more good to have it. And I know the city likes to have it, and we're the only bicycle-friendly gold community in the state. So it seems like seems reasonable to try for it again. So it's kind of hard to eliminate either one of those.
No, I don't think we should eliminate any of these.
Okay.
Okay, so was it Cynthia that said maybe people volunteer to help and that could prioritize? And so ITEP is something that I have some experience with, so I could put my name next to that one.
Anyone else want to volunteer for any of those 3?
So, Bill, can I just ask, when I moved here, Urbana had gold friendlies, had the gold status, which is one of the reasons why I moved here. Was that because there was no staff support for filling out that form, and so BPAC just filled it out? Or did we actually have, because I know, for example, the Arts Commission, they have over $100,000 in grants that they give out. And then they also have a full-time person that's dedicated to their commission, as well as a part-time person.
Yeah, the RPC submitted the application and worked with BPAC and staff to submit the application. And we weren't gold starting off. We were silver. Were we?
Bronze.
We were bronze. Yeah.
And then we skipped to gold. We skipped right over.
We jumped to gold.
Yeah, which was unusual.
So is this just a matter of someone on the city staff reaching out to RPC and making sure that this application gets submitted, or what's the workflow on that?
That's what I understand. I thought that process was kind of
already happened.
Scheduled, scheduled if it hasn't already happened. I'm sure, and I know Gabe's aware of it. I don't know as far as what's been done with the funding and agreements and everything. I don't know if John knows any more about that.
Well, and the deadline has been moving because of the pandemic. And so I'm not absolutely sure. I thought I saw something recently roll through saying they'd extended it again into 2023. And I think that's partly because they've been going through and doing an overhaul of the bicycle friendly community criteria. And I think that they weren't quite ready again for 2022. And I don't know if John knows more about that or not. I believe that that's what the last communication I heard was. And I think it's essential that we reapply and keep working on this. It's an excellent program for keeping us focused on what we need to do, what we've done well, and what we need to do to get better.
Yeah, and I can say that we are planning to budget for getting RPC to do that bicycle friendly community application. And that, I was just kind of checking my recent correspondence. I believe it was postponed until this fall. Yeah. So for what it's worth, I can put myself down on that, since I believe that kind of falls to, like we're talking about here, the city coordinate with RPC.
Okay, I'll put RPC and you.
Yeah, thanks.
Do we want to prioritize these in a 1, 2, 3? Just leave them as bullets? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we jump back just to equity?
I was going to say, I usually end up being involved in the bicycle friendly community application process because basically I've been doing all the education myself and Champaign County Bikes have been doing that. So we end up being involved in that. And I'm happy to help to apply for other funding, but I honestly just don't know how to do it. I can't apply for the city. So maybe Bill, you and I need to, or whoever wants to help with that needs to figure out how that could happen. I've applied for and gotten a lot of grants while working with MTD, and I would be happy to do that, but I don't want to spend time that doesn't result in anything.
So wait, Cynthia, are you saying then maybe the third bullet point could be apply for funding, and then for things such as Vision Zero, walk bike stuff, and then that would be, you would be volunteering to work on that, but we also want to take a meeting with the city to find out what the workflow would be, like how we would know what grants we could apply for and who we'd be working with to apply for those grants, right? Or those are two questions?
Right, basically, yeah, we have to know that the city is willing to apply for it. And if so, who do we work with to make those applications? Because I don't know that John's the person who wants to be working on that.
Right.
But somebody, I think they have someone who does grants, various capacities for the city. Or do we need to work with RPC? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, I think. They have hired people actually to apply for grants in a couple of cases, and that's worked out pretty well. But I think we'd have to just communicate with the administrator and the mayor and see how they want to handle it. And it may be, I don't know, if we may have to do a lot of the footwork as far as trying to find the grant availabilities,
Well, I already have information. I got an email today about a grant, but
all kinds of stuff comes through the transportation channels, I think. So
yeah, there's tons of stuff. Yeah.
So Cynthia, you said you're going to work on that, right?
Yes, but I'll need your assistance, I think.
Okay, well, I'll volunteer. I'll help volunteer for the funding grants.
Yeah, and I'd volunteer too, but I think I want to get the communication stuff done first, and then I'd be willing to, I don't want to get my name on two things. I just want to get my name on one thing, and then we can go from
And
there.
I can put my name on communications with you.
Okay.
You want to go to that one next?
Okay.
So that was it? That one slide just had those 3 bullet points?
Yeah, that was it for applications.
All right, cool.
So as far as this one, that's culture and communication, we have education for BPAC commissioners at the bottom. Infrastructure type built environment nods at culture, which is bike racks in this case. Being conscientious of city staff time, and maybe that's not a goal, maybe that's just like a value of ours that we internalize, and it doesn't have to be on this slide per se. And then the last one is talking about city culture, and it has these 3 recommendations of systematically including bicycle and pedestrian concerns, developing outreach programs, and then sort of this last one of when there's work going on streets and such, how are bicycles and pedestrians being thought of?
I'll take a stab at that one. I think that was kind of my initiative. So I think I'd probably try to talk with some city staff and figure out the best way to handle that.
And I wanted to offer to do something here that's related to this. I would be happy to help encourage businesses to apply to become bicycle-friendly businesses, which would actually help them look at all of these things, their bike racks, their, programming, the needs of bicyclists, et cetera. So I would be happy to help with that part of it. I don't want to, I think Annie and Sue have already volunteered to take on the bigger picture, culture and communications, and I can help with that little piece.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what I'm thinking of doing is I can come up with like 12 to 24 social media posts that we could work with the communications specialist on, and I would share them first with BPAC, make sure you all thought they were okay. And then those can get timed into our, like we can just talk, those can just sort of be, it's kind of similar to what you just did here, Cara. It's a lot of sort of like all of these internal conversations that we have that no one ever hears. It's more like kind of splitting that open, but you got to do it in like in a, shovel your walk kind of way. Anyway, so I'll put something together and then we can kind of fight over the logistics on that, see if that makes sense to all of us. And I know at one point we did remake the City of Urbana's bicycle website and bike ped parking. We kind of had spent hours doing all that stuff, but that never got implemented. But I do still have all that work. So I can kind of look through all those and see if there's anything in there. So that's what I'd be willing to do. And then maybe after that, we can break some stuff down from there.
Okay. I'll add website.
Oh, I don't know. I think it sounds like the website's a lost cause because that's all done and it's done and ready to go. But it doesn't sound like they have the staff to update the website or change anything. So.
Well, and I would also say that my understanding is the city is going to be moving to a revamped website. So I don't know if we want to invest time in it at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the one when we did we worked with the city on it and we updated all the pages. And, at a certain point, they were just like, this website has to go. I mean, it's actually, there's accessibility issues with that website and other things. So hopefully they'll move to a new website. And when they're ready, and they have all those pages that we've updated. So I think for me, what I feel like I could offer would be to come up with like some social media posts that were timely, that would work with what the city's trying to share out in emails and other things. And then we can discuss as a group if that fits who we are and what we're trying to say. And then that would build, like you're saying, Cara, here, which I love, your culture and communication. I just love the way you frame this whole thing. So I'll just try to think about it. And bike rack installation, I'm not sure. I would volunteer for it, but again, I'm just not really sure what. I think that goes to bicycle friendly businesses and things, because that also goes back to the website. We created a whole web page about like use these bike racks, not this bike rack, and all that other stuff. So I think that would be my feeling, would be that's a little lower on the totem pole.
Yeah, I'll adjust that goal, I think, to what Cynthia said about bicycle friendly businesses, because it's more than bike racks, but still gets at the culture.
Well, and I believe Annie has done a lot on that particular bullet point in the last year. I mean, it's almost an achievement already. The bikes were taken by the school, for example, and aware, the staff is aware of the bike racks, and we do have a informational folder as well. One other thing I had that was specific but probably fits under here was the need to either communicate or pass an ordinance about parking heavy vehicles on the bike infrastructure. Annie took some photos on Green Street at Lincoln that were absolutely shocking on our brand new MCOR infrastructure. A semi basically was parked right on the joint in the most vulnerable position on MCOR, which Urbana invested in. And it's unclear why they thought they can do it, whether anyone was going to communicate to them that they can't do that. I would be willing to look into that, or someone else, if someone else would like to, I'd be happy to just help. Because I'm not sure if we need an ordinance or it seems like a no-brainer that a infrastructure that was designed for bicycles and pedestrians should not be hosting a semi on it, even temporarily. It's not even as strong as a driveway, for example. So
yeah,
What
it's
if
not
we,
built. It's not built for it. That's the thing. It's like, and so you're basically just breaking infrastructure by parking your truck there. But they don't know that.
Well, and
Yeah.
even right on the joint. I mean, it was just amazing to me. Right adjacent to the joint.
what if we added a category that would maybe incorporate a few of these things called changes to city code, investigate improvements to city code, maybe something like that. And then we could put the bike parking or parking and bike facilities, bike racks could be incorporated in that, because there might be some changes to zoning or economic development incentives or something like that. I guess that's not quite city code, but policy code, something like that.
I would wonder, is this a question of an ordinance that's needed, or is it a question of just enforcing, parking?
I think in that case it is an ordinance. I don't think Urbana has anything that.
We do not have an ordinance prohibiting parking in bike lanes.
Yeah.
And there's not one that's statewide default?
No. I had a lengthy email discussion with the U of I campus police about this, and they said they cannot force people to not park in bike lanes because the state code is unclear and that can allow people to stop for loading and unloading. And they said City of Champaign, they think, has an ordinance that prohibits it, that they could enforce, but Urbana does not. And so they will not give tickets to people parking in bike lanes.
Okay, so this is an item that almost is in direct contradiction to the second bullet there. Being conscientious of the limitations, does city have time to look into this? Or, do we need to, is this high enough on our priority list to take this as an ordinance to the city council, et cetera? That's a question mark. I see it as a pretty obvious mundane thing that should exist in a bike-friendly community.
Audrey, it's going to cost the city so much money to repair that infrastructure after they've just done it.
Exactly, and it speaks volumes to what kind of culture we have.
It's not the bikes causing cracks in all that infrastructure. And so it's
oh really?
That's the thing. So it's a no-brainer.
So yeah, I think maybe we need like a legislative and policy subgroup, and I'd volunteer to be on that. And some of these things we could refer to that if we think it requires a change in either code or policy. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, and I would mention also that on these volunteering time, we have outside people who can also join us on these activities. And I just got a volunteer on ordinance type issues from someone in my household here. So I think that any of these we can bring in, if someone can help us from the outside, that's totally allowable and would help stretch our resources.
Okay. I think we're making progress. And I'm just thinking we can continue to go through this, but Kara, would you be willing to put together a revised version that kind of incorporates what we've been talking about?
Yes, definitely. I'll send something out within the next week after this.
Okay. Well, let's keep going with the next one then.
Okay.
Research.
So research and planning, and this has the reviews of the bike and ped plans. Another general goal about looking at the plans for opportunities that we can implement. Talking with partner agencies, providing input to staff and city council, and then there's a specific one about snow removal ordinance. And so under planning may be the place for where you talk about ordinances. Ordinances or code.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to make this sort of the ordinance code, because that's a lot of what this is. It's a lot of looking at the finer details and points, and making sure that things are on track. I love that.
Yeah, and the next to the bottom bullet is also relating to that, pretty much the culture and so both of those things are relating to culture and communication. Is that what it was under previously?
Right?
Yeah. Somehow there's a little bit of overlap there, or we could move things.
Yeah, I think it's good if our topics overlap with each other. Okay, I'll change the word a little bit to talk about general ordinance review or improvement here.
And you know what, Cara, I'm going to do is I'm going to build something called, I call it an Airtable. It's a program. And in the Airtable, I'll incorporate these as goals and as different things. I'll just present, at some point I'll present it all, and you guys will see how it all kind of fits together. This is like really smart what you've done here, Cara. Super smart.
So it seems to me that maybe this one is a little bit vague.
Yeah, I was wondering about that one.
That one and this one to some extent as well might need to be either adapted to be with one of the other ones, or made a little bit more specific, or removed. There are a lot of separate bullet points under this one.
Yeah, for the third bullet there, I might suggest that be part of the review of the other master plans. Just, reviewing the pedestrian or bicycle master plans to see how they fit.
Okay, so yeah.
Goals and other plans, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think both of those that you highlighted are probably already incorporated in some of the other ones that we're keeping.
Okay. So I'll effectively delete number 3 and number 5 because it's part of what we're already doing.
Or are you guys comfortable? Can you make sure to remind me though, when I do present that Airtable, that there are moments that throughout the year that we actually do communicate with City Council, like things that we're working on, and just, that's all. I think it's a great point, and I'm okay with you deleting it. I'm just remind me at some point to make sure that we're actually on point for doing things like that.
That you're saying that's maybe one of the things you want to do on the communications.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a part of it. I think we've not done a great job as a commission expanding beyond our 2 hours once a month, which is what I'm pretty excited about, the idea of the social media posts or getting things included in emails or, and in the past we've asked for Facebook, we've asked for these things and the city does not want us to have them. So I like the idea of working with the city and then trying to expand what this means. So I'm going to look at how the Arts Commission communicates. I know they have unique assets that we don't have access to. But I'm going to look at sort of similar to that, because I think sort of, when I talk to people about Urbana, they say bikes and art are the two things, that you'll often hear. And so I think it's important for us to be, leaning into that culture more and figuring out what that means. So I got to think on it though. I got to figure out what that means. So.
Well, I like the third bullet because it's, we tend to do these reviews because we're required to do a review now. and we forget that this is a document that's a living guide for every month. I mean, it's something we could do a lot more frequently than every 5 years because we're required to do it. Being aware of it, it's almost like, our book club to review these plans before we meet and be ready to talk about what needs changing and what we should seize on, where the opportunity exists. I do like that bullet because to me, it goes beyond these other reviews into being, it's an awareness kind of thing.
I think I'll try to remove the bullet, but absorb it into like the first two bullet points to say that we should review, but also act on.
I think in general, I mean, I know when staff puts together a capital improvement plan, and John said that when they start planning road improvements and stuff, they refer to the bicycle master plan, pedestrian master plan. So they're kind of doing that in practice.
I agree. They're doing it. I'm afraid we're not. that we're suddenly surprised and blindsided that East Main Street is nowhere to be found in there, or that's to me the issue. I know that they're being used and being used appropriately. I'm afraid we're falling down on the job.
When I would see it as definitely a valuable and important role of BPAC. I mean, just the same as it's really in there too with the identifying opportunities for ITEP grants. It's because those would come from our master plans, and it all kind of weaves together. And the city is just better off to have that. I mean, this commission with your expertise as users and advocates is huge to help for planning.
Well, and I think using the student interns to do our reviews has worked really well. They've sent me a draft of the final report for the bicycle master plan, and I think it's going to be really helpful. And this is a great project for planning students. So I think we could easily next fall ask if someone would like to do review of our pedestrian master plan, so that we have that one reviewed as well.
Jeff and Audrey both have their hands raised. I just want to.
Oh, sorry, I take it down.
Thanks, Annie. Hey, Bill, I don't know the answer to this. Does the Urbana City Council have council goals of things that they're trying to accomplish that they, vote on and approve?
Yeah, they've been working on those for the past couple months. Usually after an election, they'll put together a primary set of goals for that council and then review them every couple of years, at least, sometimes every year.
Are there any council goals that are bike related?
They haven't really published the draft as far as I know. I think some of the early discussions, there was something about they were going to ask BPAC to help with transportation connectivity downtown or something. It was pretty vague.
Does the general public have an opportunity to give input on those goals before they're adopted?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So like that would be an opportunity for BPAC to tell city council, like, these are some goals that we think you should have, potentially.
I think so. The process is a little different every time, so I'm not sure exactly.
I guess the reason I ask all those questions is because of that. I was trying to figure out what that fifth bullet point was maybe going for, because it did seem redundant of the some of the previous ones that were on there. But the council initiatives part, I was trying to figure out what that meant. So I'm wondering if that was maybe more along the lines of the council goals. Anyway, whenever we get to the point where we're doing all of these things, maybe there's an opportunity for BPAC to be more involved in the input on the council goals.
Well, and I would suggest too that this exercise that we're doing here, which is really excellent, is also going to communicate through the annual report to council what BPAC's goals are and what BPAC's so I think, maybe not timed at the same time that council is setting their goals, but this is also us communicating to them.
As far as this theme, did anyone want me to associate their name or any subgroups of BPAC with bullet points? I am sensitive of how much time we're taking up, and I think we have 2 more topics.
I mean, it sounds like the reviews are going to probably, if we want a systematic review, we're probably going to need to use the interns, which, I mean, really, it sounds like there's already a process that's going to be fairly complete for an initial review. But the updating, I think, probably would involve some budgeting and use of RPC again.
Mhm. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about that. Just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about that third bullet point? How is that actually implemented? Is that a committee of 2 or 3 people going through the plans page by page and saying, look, that one we haven't done yet? Or so part of it is, we don't know what capital improvement projects are coming up. So it's hard to take opportunities if you don't know, what the next plans are.
Do we know where Champaign is with these plans?
In regards to the, Champaign does not have a bike plan. They have a transportation master plan that was adopted in 2008, so it's fairly dated. They also do not have, they have a Walk Champaign plan that was adopted in like 2016, I think. That was more of a pedestrian plan. So I'm sure if they had time and money, they would continue to work on all of these things, but it's not a priority right now. Champaign just recently did an update to the comprehensive plan, and then there's a fair amount of neighborhood plans that they're working on. So they have not, Urbana has much more time and have allocated resources a lot more towards a lot of these goals than Champaign has. But I would also say that a lot of it gets incorporated into development as it occurs. So Champaign also has a trails plan that was adopted in 2011 and then updated a couple of times, that a lot of trails and bike network gets built out as development occurs. So a lot of the development in the southwest part of Champaign or the fringe of the community, the bike and pedestrian improvements get incorporated into the development as it happens. But no, I think Urbana's probably further along with their pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure planning, or just as far along as Champaign is.
I guess I was just thinking in terms of coordinating, if there was any coordination, to be done.
The other thing that in Champaign, I'm sure you know that the planning department has cut 2 positions. So Ben Leroy used to be, a lot of his time was allocated towards a lot of the bike and pedestrian goals. So he's the one that drafted the pedestrian plan, but he got promoted to a full-time zoning administrator. So he has a lot less time to work on it. And then they never filled that position. So it's another challenge, or less time allocated towards that. But yeah, I don't know if there's an opportunity there for more coordination between Urbana and Champaign or not.
Sarthak has his hand raised.
Yeah, so what I usually do for our university's bicycle master plan is we have our yearly updates. I'm actually working on our yearly bike plan update right now. But the 5-year review that we did in 2019, 2020, what we did was we just listed all the objectives that were completed, and we just revised the campus bike plan that we had using the report. We did not publish that. It's just like a working document for us internally to just see what we still have left to do, and then move forward from there. So I think if we have interns working on a report or an annual report or a 5-year report, I think if we just use that information to revise the overarching plan, we could still get some very decent information without redoing all those, because we are going to review what the interns are doing, right? So doesn't make sense to do that twice.
Yeah, some of that also will, I mean, when we go through the equity and quality of life projects, I know when I submitted some, I definitely looked at various plans, whether it's a trails plan or park district plans or city plans. I kind of looked at a lot of different plans. So some of that's just kind of inherent in the other work we do, but I'm just not sure how to make number 3 systematic, I guess. Maybe it's just a matter of doing what Sartak said, just approving the work done by the interns when they're finished and making that a document that can be, maybe even send that to city council. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that the review of those master plans could result in like Sartak said, like, you know, here's what's remaining that hasn't been acted on yet, or maybe through that review, and you know, if there's things that are not in the master plans that have come up in BPAC, that could be that opportunity. So I mean, I think that would be the result of the review of the master plans, item 3 there.
Okay, so I think maybe we could just put those 3, the top 3, under one category. Would that work? Plan review, and then kind of incorporate those as all bullet points under plan review.
Sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
I like the point that John made, that we do need to review it in light of what might be omitted. You know, that's the problem with reviews, is you tend to just look at what's there and not
Right.
what may be omitted. But looking back over topics that we've had in BPAC would really help us remember what's not there.
Yeah, the interns asked about recommendations they wanted to include, and I said, well, that's good, but you need to provide some justification for making changes in the plan. And so the only other plan that we have any purview over is the wayfinding plan, and absolutely nothing's happened with that one. So until something happens with it, there's no point in our reviewing it. But these 2, there are things being done. And so I think that would incorporate number 3, is that those are the plans we have, and those are the things we need to be looking at.
I think we may have had
maybe,
some
Kara, just to make sure we don't forget that point, could you include that we review it in light of the topics of BPAC over the last several years, the appropriate number of years, 5 or whatever it is?
So in addition to reviewing,
or, you know, incorporated in that is the idea that we compare it with topics that have come up in BPAC.
Sure.
Because the interns won't necessarily know what's come up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. So we haven't done this one? Wait. Oh. I didn't change evaluation and response on this slide, I think. So this is actually evaluation,
Okay.
which makes a lot of sense. And then research and planning is here. So that's Vision Zero action plan, pedestrian lighting, crash data, and e-bikes.
Well, Bruce isn't here, but I'm sure he'd be interested in handling the e-bike one. So I'll volunteer Bruce for e-bikes. And I'm happy to work on number 1, pedestrian lighting.
Okay, and then Vision Zero action plan will be the task force.
I would also, I'll have to check with my supervisor, but I like the points number 1 and number 2, and like Vision Zero and the lighting project.
Yeah, it would be great to have the U of I's input on lighting, because they've already implemented some of those.
Yeah.
Okay, and then for vision, go ahead.
A lot of information on that yet. Yeah.
What are we gonna do about crash data quality?
That's right. I have to wonder if crash data quality isn't going to be working with the police department somehow. I don't, that's the only people I know who would have some, you know.
I think police and IT, I think the main issue with what gets put up on our open data site, which is really good to have that. We're lucky that we get fairly timely data there. But the location data just isn't reliable. Usually they're supposed to put like a block number, like 300 block of Florida or whatever, but probably 75 to 80% of them at this stage, at the early stage, just say 0 block. Apparently they fix that before they make it official and send it to RPC and everything, but sometimes that's a year or two. So what we get in a month, roughly every month, they update all the crashes so you can filter it and search it and everything, but that location data is just not very good. So that would be the emphasis I'd put on it if somebody wants to take that on. But I think it would involve talking with police, whoever codes the police reports, and then the IT when they convert it to the open data site to make sure that whatever location is in there gets incorporated.
Well, it would actually be almost a presentation that they could make, because it's quite conceivable we're misunderstanding something about the challenges involved. It does seem strange that they can't just put the block right in there from the beginning as to go back and fix it later. We must be missing something, is what I think. And I'd love to hear from them. Maybe we need to put our questions together in a document and forward it to the police department and request a presentation from them. I'm thinking their statistician probably is involved. And
do you remember when Craig used to say I can't, because I was like, Craig, can we just every month have it be like this many this month we had 20 car crashes, 15 this, 4, I was like, could we just, or even like last month we had, right? And he said no, because it's too much. You would know private information about people. So I don't know if that's still the problem, but it would be so great to get that information. And it could honestly just be a simple thing of, we had no idea people were looking at these things in real time and hoping to get information from them. So we'll update it. So I think that's it is a conversation to just ask and find out what we can do.
The alternative is actually to FOIA the crash reports, and the location is available in those crash reports. So why it isn't coded when it goes online, I'm not sure. I think there's something we're not understanding, because the information is available. I'll
volunteer on that one too. I'll do a minimum on that. I'll just contact Sanford, I think, and ask him if we put it on the agenda, if he could just come, Zoom in and talk to us for 5 or 10 minutes about the process, so we can
probably should give them a list of questions.
Yeah, because I don't understand the question. I don't understand data hunting, what you guys are doing. I have no idea. So I cannot help with this, but I think that'd be great if you can, because I do think it's probably, they just probably have no idea that we're trying to do this with their data, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, we can do that. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps it's just more efficient for them to take the whole batch of them and code in the block all at once later when they're sending it to IDOT or something. It must be something like that.
When Public Works does engineering studies on locations to determine whether they deserve stop signs and other things like that, they need to know, how many crashes there were at that intersection, and the volumes and stuff. The volumes, I think they record every year, and that's up on the IDOT website. So you have traffic volumes, but I don't know how timely their crash data is and how good it is. But if we can get improved data available, and if it just takes us, a little extra effort to get improved data on open data, then it would be useful for Public Works when they do those engineering studies too.
Yeah, I would mention that Urbana's really good about the open data portal in general. It's actually a lot easier to get the crash data than from Champaign, where you have to FOIA every bit of information. So it's all available, but you have to go to the trouble of putting in a FOIA for it. Whereas in Urbana, they very wisely have put this stuff up, and just the detailed reports have to be FOIA'd. And as I mentioned, all the details are there. I mean, you know what ticket was issued or wasn't issued, and where exactly it happened, you know, almost to the foot. So it's not a question of it's not available. You can find out.
And like with that data, are you all able to then overlay, like, so for example, where by Huaraches, where there's just constant like car accidents, like would you be able to overlay and be like, in the last 2 years, we've had 20 car accidents at this intersection, like?
Yeah, not right now.
Okay.
If the location data was better, we could.
The RPC does have a map that posts that, don't they, Bill, or was it only?
Yes, they do. A selected intersections crash analysis report.
But
right, and they actually have
that
it mapped too, but the problem is that by the time it's gotten there, it's at least 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
So finding out things, and there's different cities and locations that are posting that, mapping that kind of thing in real time, just for the information of the public and also to take action for the information of the police. To see if something's changed, to evaluate in real time whether something's changed at this intersection, that suddenly there's, you know, 3 crashes in a week. That I know was actually one of our goals long ago, is to see that happen here. And it's possible to happen. I mean, the fact that RPC is putting it, but of course you got to start with at least identifying what block the crash is in the database.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if you even need to leave that up. Well, yeah, let's leave it in as a goal. I'll just invite Sanford and send him some questions.
Okay, and I'll just update it to also just say I have a better understanding of that process, because it sounds like that's a big part of what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So I think that this is the final topic. And there's 3 major bullet points: the EQL, which of course we want to move forward with, right? And then improving transportation safety and accessibility. And then I think that this may be able to fold into that safety and accessibility, improving technology that helps with automated pedestrian crossings.
Yeah, I think we have that.
So just delete this one maybe?
Yeah. I think the equity and quality of life, we're just kind of on hold until staff comes back with us with their recommendations or their first cut or whatever. Is that what's going to happen, John? You guys go review all the project and figure out what's doable, and then you'd like more input from us at that point?
Yeah, that's my understanding of the process. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we need to volunteer for that one. We'll volunteer staff to bring it back to us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll volunteer Carol. We'll put Miss Mittens next to that one. She was like, this is fun. I don't get to do fun things like this.
That's right. That's her fun project, so we'll volunteer.
Yeah, we're like, all right.
Nancy, I think you've been doing some stuff with PACE. I was wondering if you would be willing to work on some of the stuff in the second bullet.
Yeah, I will certainly volunteer for the working on the second bullet.
Thanks. That'd be great.
And Jeff, you're the only one who hasn't volunteered for something. Is there something that you'll work on here?
Did we cover everything?
Yeah, we've now touched on all 5 topics, but I can update everything, send it out, and then I can add your name later if you need more analysis time.
Yeah, send out the list of everything, and I would be interested in helping the interns with the then review of the pedestrian and bicycle plans.
Jeff, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I think Jeff would be good at this job.
Thanks, John. The one challenge with that I would be concerned about is it would be a lot of work to evaluate what is out there and what the city has done. So, it's one thing to look at the plan and be like, oh, here's what was recommended. And then it would be a separate thing to figure out, oh, what was actually done 3 years ago and 2 years ago and then last year. So that would be, but I'll work with the interns on that and we'll just figure out how to get that done.
They were pretty adept at it this time. They didn't need a whole lot of supervision, and I have office space for them to work in, but I'd be delighted to have someone sort of be in charge.
Weren't they needing input from Public Works to know what had been done?
They got it from RPC. They asked the city for projects, and the park district gave them stuff. And
the CCGIS area photo maps are done every 3 years too, so that's been pretty helpful. If you know where to look, you can tell whether there was a side path built there or not.
And they went out and they've gone out and taken pictures, and so they've got it pretty thoroughly reviewed.
Yeah, that presentation was very good last month.
Thanks. I think that you will be impressed with the report they're working on.
I think we'll be even more impressed because Jeff is going to help them.
Let's not get our hopes too high, Annie.
Okay, that was great. Thanks, Kara. And thanks for all your hard work and the hard work that you're going to be doing for the next round.
Yeah, I'll try to send something out within a week.
Okay, so that is a segue to the annual report. Let me share my screen. Oops.
So are these goals going to be added to the annual report?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think they're big enough where we could make it a separate document. And
should we vote on giving Kara direction to finalize it or something, or just, I don't know, straw poll, or I don't know, do we need any action?
Like to acknowledge the awesome work.
I think it might make sense to vote on it next month when we come back with. I mean, is that kind of what will happen? Is that Kara will fashion this and get it back to a final state, and then we can vote on that maybe.
Yeah, I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And as part of that is the timing of that maybe not work with the timing of the annual report, Bill?
It could. I mean, I made some progress on the annual report, but I think I need a tighter deadline. But I could do, it's far enough along where I think if you gave me direction to complete it and approved it as a draft, then I could send out the final and just get feedback on it without getting it reapproved and then present it. I did notice that in our bylaws, I reread our bylaws and it says we're supposed to present it in February. So it might be good to, if you feel comfortable with it, to approve the outline or draft that I have, and then I'll send out the final and ask for input before I present it, but then go ahead and schedule a presentation for council. And then we could do another one in a couple months with our goals. It might be good to go ahead and get the annual report presented. Does that sound reasonable? And in the annual report, I'll note that, it's really, the annual report is on what we did last year, and we've been working on goals this year. So I can, in the presentation to council, inform them that we're doing goals and that I'll be back in a month or two to present the goals before they do their budget, hopefully.
Yeah, and that sounds reasonable to me. You don't want to get us too far into 2022 before we give them the annual report.
Okay. Well, let's go through what I have, and it'll be a lot faster than I said I need a tighter deadline. I think when I wait like 3 weeks before I work on it again, I don't get as much done. So I'm going to make a deadline of Sunday to complete this and send it back to you. So the first part starts out pretty much like last year. We need a new picture for the front. I took Leo's name off. I didn't add John or Bruce yet because they started in 2022. So that's Deepak's background. That's the same as usual. Infrastructure improvements. There really wasn't much last year. They did finish the intersection of Vine and Washington and added new crosswalks and ramps there and enhanced stop signs. That was the only thing I thought of that was actually new.
Wasn't the Green Street finished last year, Bill?
No, everything was done except the striping last year. I mean, in 2020. Spring of 2021, all they had left to do was the striping.
Yeah, the installation of the bike lanes. Because there was nothing there until they did the striping.
Oh, maybe you're right. Okay, I'll look at that. Was the Green Street portion?
I have some pictures because I was very excited when it happened.
Yeah, and remember how Stacy was like, "Oh, we should do an event. We should do an event with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
We should do an open streets event." And
I was thinking the other part of Green Street. Okay, yeah, Urbana Green Street.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll add that. And then I mentioned the Park District loop around Blair Park. Did the Park District do anything else in 2021?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
The Blair Park construction is just fantastic. If any of you,
that's gonna be awesome.
It really, yeah. I ran around it the other day and I was like, this is amazing.
Remind me to tell you about the electronic soccer wall later.
Planning, so weren't any new plans approved or amended. I talked about getting the interns to begin the evaluation. But we did make a recommendation on the KRT extension study, which is really a plan. So I mentioned that after that crash on East Main. And I think I made a presentation to council on that in February or March last year. Talked about the Equity and Quality of Life project. I do still need to add some pictures to these. So yeah, just basically said that Carol Mitten wanted us to help with feedback on developing the process, and she made some proposals. We gave feedback, and then remember, we also had the presentation on the communication plan. And I think that was good feedback too on that. And they have had more than 50 projects proposed so far. An update on Vision Zero. And I put in a little bit of crash statistics. There were 175 total crashes with injuries, 11 for people on bikes and 11 pedestrians, 2 fatalities, 1 pedestrian and 1 driver. So then I want to talk about the wiki map, and that'd be a good picture to put in there.
Yeah, I think so. And if you want, we can download the data that we've gotten so far. It's up to you.
We could just, I don't know. How much it was there? Were there a lot of? There probably weren't a whole lot yet, were they?
It's not an enormous data set, and it could be more fruitful to wait until we close that out and include it in the next year's annual report.
Yeah, I think I'll just maybe put a link to it and a picture. And can you give me a little blurb on that, like what it's useful for, what we hope to accomplish with it? Any other updates on Vision Zero? I did mention that the mayor sent out the invitation. So
I'll look at the presentation.
Okay.
to see if we have more. I'll send it to you.
And then other topics, we talked about budgeting for sidewalk and path maintenance. So that's just a screenshot from the capital improvement plan showing this is an estimate of what it would cost to sustainably maintain our sidewalk inventory. It'd be about $1 million a year, half of that for maintenance and half of that for new and improved. And this is what's actually budgeted is $130,000 per year. So that's why we asked for more money for that. So yeah, our votes I highlighted in red. So the others I just have I have lists so far. I'm going to fill these out. Increased staff support for BPAC, application to renew bicycle friendly gold, crosswalk at the crosswalk at Race in Washington that we asked Traffic Commission to look at. We reviewed all the locations for 6 feet passing signs that Champaign County Bikes proposed. And that I could use one of our pictures from that.
It's 3 foot.
Oh yeah, dang. Wishful thinking, wasn't it? Maybe that's what I do. I give.
Yeah, 6 foot is a much better idea, but getting that legally in there is a whole nother thing because very few places have room for people to do that without pulling into the other lane.
I was hoping nobody would notice if I just slipped that in there and you could change all the signs. Oh well.
Actually, good numbers of people do pull into the other lane.
Now, this is why Bill wants to be in charge of the ordinances, because he's just going to sneak little things in there and know people like me never read them.
Traffic gardens, that would be another. I actually have a picture I wanted to put in there just of their aerial photo or aerial view of the King Park traffic garden. But we actually had 2 presentations on that, one on Orchard Downs earlier, and then the 2 groups with King and Meadowbrook Park. Snow removal on sidewalks. Just a reminder that, some of our other recommendations were to expand that and that we would be probably looking at other examples in the coming year.
I think you could also say that the city did quite a bit with social media to encourage snow removal. More of that happened in 2022 than in 2021 because we didn't get any snow until January.
Then we talked about the bicycle registration and stolen found bikes a little bit. That's a policy issue that really, they still have the old police department policy, so that needs to be updated as far as making sure that everybody knows the process for that. Now that there's nobody, that used to be the animal control officer, remember, that took care of that, and now they don't have an animal control officer, so that needs to be formalized as far as what people's responsibilities are for that. Pedestrian streets, slow streets is kind of a conversational issue that can point out that there is something already in Urbana City Code that allows the traffic engineer or head of public works to temporarily make pedestrian streets on an experimental basis. Design for visually impaired. We talked about the bus stop designs on Green Street, and then the bike racks, getting bike racks out of storage into areas where they could be used. That was that issue. Any other issues there that we talked about that you think I should mention?
What was the pedestrian streets, slow streets? Is that the survey that they put out also?
Yeah,
I would mention that survey was really, really awesome.
And back up on projects, Bill, John, I don't know whether you know this or not, but I think that they replaced some of the storm drains that were on bike routes. So I know that they had an intern a couple of years ago identify all of them. I think they've been doing that, and maybe also ramp. I know you've been doing.
There have been some more ramps.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to mention those if we have. I would think I'd have somewhere how many of those have been done, and how many of the drains have been brought up to standard storm drain.
Yeah, and this is unfortunate. I'm just new enough at this that I don't know about the storm drains necessarily. But yeah, well, and Bill, we could definitely, if you want to send me an email, you can definitely look through and see if we have some, ramp replacements, if we could quantify it somehow.
Okay.
To include.
Yeah, I think that what I remember is Craig made a presentation. They had an intern actually go out and check maybe all the storm drains, and identified a few that were still, the slatted ones that can catch bicycle tires. Because we did talk about trying to maybe save some of the ones from Green Street before it was torn up, and seeing if we could use some of those in areas that that weren't compliant. But he said that they aren't necessarily consistent size and everything, and that it probably wasn't worth the effort to do that. But I don't think there were a lot. But I don't know if anything happened with that this year. So if John doesn't know, then we could probably leave that out. But definitely the ramp. Definitely the ramps. If we can quantify that, that'd be good to have in there. Okay. I think that was it. Yeah. So yeah, I'll touch base with John on those issues, and Audrey will send me something for Vision Zero. Mm-hmm. I think I can get the rest of these okay.
What?
Maybe Annie, Andy, do you have a summary or something of the pedestrian street survey?
Yeah, I'm going to find it right now and I can email it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, because it showed high level of public engagement and diversity.
Yeah, that was my thought as well.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking. I mean, I remember at the end of it, I was actually thinking about it today because there's a discussion on the WUNA listserv about parking in downtown Urbana and the Rose Bowl. And it was just interesting to me how many people in this area were just deeply interested in the downtown area, just deeply interested in that. And I was like, okay, that was unexpected. So, and just to let everyone know, there's a discussion on the WUNA listserv about the Rose Bowl parking lot being converted to the parking lot that Rose Bowl had last year for outdoor music being kept open for that use throughout the summer. And people in this neighborhood are very, 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 very excited about that happening. So it was just kind of nice for me to see.
And the idea, I like the idea that you had that they could have converted the street under construction to a slow street and used this as an opportunity to highlight that idea. That was pretty neat.
So that would be the official annual report, with our activities and recommendations. But I think for the presentation to council, I'm planning on doing several introductory slides about the importance of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in how it fits into the city goals and equity and affordability and all that sort of thing. So that's not really part of the annual report, but I plan to make that part of my presentation, and actually probably just not go through the annual report page by page during the council presentation, because that'd just be about 10 minutes and they'll have that in front of them anyway. So it would be more of maybe highlighting a few things and then, answering questions if there's questions.
Bill, are you urbanabill at Gmail, urbanabill at Yahoo?
Either one.
All good? Okay.
Yeah.
Bill, I liked your suggestion of, if we were to maybe make a motion to, for you to basically take this outline and finish the report, before our next meeting. And just, I guess the idea of us authorizing you to, present it to council. Is that kind of what you?
Yeah, if people are okay with that, at least then we can get it scheduled, and it may still not happen until after our next meeting, but if I can get it done by Sunday and get it out to you guys, and we could start trying to get it on the schedule in a week or two, and then see what it starts looking like there. I know once they get into April and May, it starts to be a lot of budget issues, and it's a little harder to get into the council schedule. So are people comfortable making a motion to have me complete the draft as presented and send it out for final comments before presentation?
And to make the presentation to council if it's completed? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I move.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thanks. Moved by Audrey and seconded by Jeff for Bill to finish the annual report as drafted and send it back to BPAC members for final comments next week, to schedule presentation to council after that, something like that. Okay. So any more discussion on that? Then we could have a roll call.
Okay, Bill Brown,
Yes.
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Cara Dudek,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
Yes.
Audrey Ashee,
Yes.
Susan Jones,
Yes.
Jeff Marino,
Yes.
Sartak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
and John Zeman.
Yes.
Thanks. That motion carries. Okay, so next is reports of city officials, staff, and reports of committees. Do we have anything for that? I think
I do. Kat, did you have anything you wanted to report on?
I do not. Thanks, John.
Okay, sure. Could somebody elevate, this is a little complicated, but could somebody elevate the John Zeman, I think like video or visual? Yeah. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Yeah. Okay. I just have to have two devices here. All right. So I wanted to clarify. Am I getting some weird feedback from you guys?
Are you able to share now?
I am. I'm sorry. I thought I heard some weird audio feedback. Hopefully that's not happening. Okay. Share my screen. Let's get down to, I want to present a little update for the group on our sidewalk maintenance program. So working towards our capital improvement plan for 2022. And one aspect we've been making progress on in Public Works is we're creating a scoring system, kind of a semi-objective scoring system to take top priority improvements that are identified in the pedestrian master plan, along with resident concerns, and apply the same scoring system to them so we can find out where do they fit in our priorities and attack the highest priorities first with our limited funding. What we're showing here in this pie chart is the kind of criteria and their relative rankings and weights assigned to them. This is based on a panel of about 12 of us within staff with engineering, operations, and community development contributing. So we had a variety of perspectives. There you see safety definitely taking the top, with a number of other factors coming into play. We take these, assign a score to different identified improvements or needs, and go to map them. So this is an example of where we are with the first round of it is mapping out the high scoring improvements in GIS. The purple lines for your reference are other projects in the capital improvement plan. Because what happened with a lot of these is some of these sidewalk needs were within a capital improvement plan project, so we didn't want to attack that separately. We wanted to let that get absorbed into the project. So what we can do with these is we can group these by location. For example, down there in the Philo Business Corridor, up here north of University, including along that stretch of University where IDOT's going to do their resurfacing project. Down there near Huaraches, like Annie brought up, up there the northwest part of Urbana, and then in downtown as well. Just some ways we can group the work. Some next steps we have for these are to go through and verify the scope of work, whether our operations crews can grind vertical faults and take care of some of the problems that way, or whether we need to get into replacement work that we would put plans together, put out for bids, have it contracted out, and also have updated budgetary cost estimates based on these, the scope of work assigned. And then, some real positive news that's coming out of some of these discussions is that community development has some surplus CDBG funds available, and sidewalk improvements is a pretty easy one to apply that to. So these are some of the these blocks here shown on this map. We could use CDBG funds for any sidewalk improvements within these areas. And that became an important part of our scoring system, because not only is it in socioeconomic target areas, but it's also going to have funding. So that gives it a bump up in our priority score. And so what we plan to do in the capital improvement plan is to have a budget for CDBG funds, and also a separate budget for capital replacement and improvement funds. Basically, like Bill showed, the current budget is for about $120,000 a year. That would stay the same, and then on top of that, we'll be putting CDBG funds. So that's our hope there. Yeah, so we still got some work to do, but we're making a little progress in that regard.
Yay! Any questions?
Hooray! Yay. That's wonderful.
Thanks. And I definitely, to Stephanie McMahon and Sheila Dodd for bringing that up to us from community development. Definitely a good collaboration there. We still have to make it happen, but looks promising.
John, that first slide you showed with the lines, the purple lines for the next slide, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
The purple lines for things that are already in CIP, is that looking out 5 years or something?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
So the purple lines should be addressed sometime within the next 5 years. Although we all know that those CIP projects oftentimes get pushed ahead to farther than 5 years. But
sure, they can get shuffled around sometimes, but yeah, these are the plans right here. So
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. No, thank you.
I think you're next on the Florida Avenue project too.
I am. And Audrey had sent me a request to kind of touch base on the IDOT University Avenue input. Audrey, if it's all right with you, given our time right now, I might just try to talk to you outside of the meeting, give you an update.
Sure.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So moving on, like Bill said, to the working with RPC and MTD closely on really MTD's leading the charge to apply for a federal grant for the Florida Avenue corridor reconstruction. And so what we're asking BPAC, if BPAC would be willing to support the project with a letter of support, which we've got a draft here ready that is part of the, as attachment to the agenda. And so, I think, just to, rather than reading the letter, just in case you're not familiar with the proposed project, the scope of the Florida Avenue project is from the Champaign boundary at Wright Street extended out to 1 block east of Vine Street, and including some improvements at the various intersections as well. So Lincoln Avenue and Orchard Street, those intersections are going to get new signals, but also Race Street and Vine Street those intersections will get signalized as well. They're currently stop controlled. There's going to be a 10-foot wide multi-use path installed on the south side of Race Street between Lincoln Avenue south side of Florida between Lincoln Avenue and Race Street. The various sidewalk improvements to try to bring it back into compliance. And so that is the basic scope of it. We have a description, that would go out to the Federal Department of Transportation for this RAISE grant that we're applying for. And I guess one thing I could ask is if you can see my screen, this red, sentence here, insert specific statement. I guess if BPAC wanted to make a specific statement here, we could also just delete that out and let it stand for itself. BPAC fully supports the application for the Florida Avenue Corridor Reconstruction Project. But I guess if I'd invite anybody wants to add a statement there, we could do so.
John, I feel I would like to see what is being included in the application so that we know what we're supporting.
Okay.
I think.
How far along was the RPC in putting together the public input and everything? Far enough along to come up with a $13 million budget, I guess. But do you have a lot of specifics on it?
Well, the corridor study is, I think, probably about a month or two away from being completed. The grant application is due April 15th. We have identified enough. We've gone far enough with the scope to be able to do a budget. Definitely a lot of work left to do, but I think the next step for RPC is another round of public involvement.
So when you apply for this, is part of the, maybe you mentioned it in the letter, I read it a while ago and I might have forgotten, but is part of that for engineering and also for public outreach, or does this grant cover phase 1 engineering?
This grant would cover construction and engineering, like inspection during construction.
Yeah, so what is approved in this grant would then have to be, and having worked on these grants, what's approved in this grant would then have to be implemented in order to get the funding. So you couldn't approve this, get the grant, and then say we want to change it without going through a whole process of amending it through the Federal Highway Administration.
Correct.
That's why I would like to know what's in it.
Okay. Well, I can, and the grant is, the grant application is definitely in process, but it's.
I know you got a timeline issue here, and we certainly would like to support it, but I need to understand, you mentioned the intersection signalization and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know what that means in terms of what is being proposed at those intersections. So I really would like to see that information.
Okay.
I'd like to see it also. I'm just, having had a number of near misses at race in Florida. I'd sure love to see T crash possibilities go away there. I know that probably didn't make the cut, but also I just have one specific suggestion, and it's probably in your application. That's why I agree with something. I'm kind of curious how it's worded, but the university student housing, I wonder if it seems to me it should say student family housing. It's primarily graduate students and a very diverse low-income population there. I know for the RAISE grant, they are looking for climate and environmental and racial equity goals to be met also. So anything we can do to make sure that's highlighted, I think is a positive. And I can't say enough about, I understand that safety is the number one draw here probably. all the crashes at Lincoln. And just today I was coming from Savoy across and dreading that intersection, Lincoln and Florida. How am I going to cross it? How am I going to play it this time? So it's great, and it needs to happen. But I'm also curious about how visionary the goals are here, because I think that this is an opportunity to really start envisioning these other goals.
John, did you, or I don't know, I don't have the pedestrian plan or the bike plan in front of me. Do they call for anything along this corridor that's where the grant is? And is the grant consistent? The grant application consistent with those?
Yeah, the multi-use path that I described on the south side of Florida from Lincoln to Race is definitely a part of the master plan and is being incorporated in this
Does
project.
the letter of support say, I guess the reason I asked that is because of that red sentence in the last paragraph. Does the letter of support say that this is consistent with the approved bike plan?
That's a good question. I'll make a note of that, and that's something that, oh, yeah, here it is, this sentence here. I see it. Now if I can use my...
Yeah, I see it identified in the City of Urbana's 2016 Bicycle Master Plan.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Good, thanks, Jeff. Okay, well, so, and this I'm not entirely sure the procedurally about this, but if this, so if this were to be a letter from the commission, I would think it would probably need to be like voted on at a meeting to be, approved by the commission to be signed. Sounds like there's not the consensus for that in this case. At least it wouldn't happen in time for the application funding unless there was some mechanism for us to.
We have in the past had just the chair sign the letter. So if you can get us details on the on the plan and the design, then I think I could take a straw poll of people by email, and if people are comfortable with the chair signing the letter, then we could submit it.
I would think that we're comfortable with signing the letter. I would think we could vote for sending it.
I'm definitely in support of a trail along the south side of Florida there. I mean, I do see where Cynthia's concerns might be with the traffic signalization. I'd be concerned that they might be speeding up traffic, which might be counterproductive to adding bike and pedestrian improvements. But as long as they were slowing traffic down and they're adding the trail, I'm 100% in favor of that.
John, can I ask you? I assume I'm assuming by April 15th you are submitting a finished plan and this letter at the same time, right?
We're submitting a grant application.
And then in the grant application, it has a plan that you're asking for funding for, right?
Right, in fairly generic terms. It doesn't really. There's a lot of details that are not specified in the grant application.
Okay. So, of course, I have a lot of hesitations with when you share this plan, living in a neighborhood where people are very fussy about things. And then the other issue I have is I really want to see a roundabout at Lincoln in Florida, which I know is not going to be in this plan. But it sounds like you are going to have broad strokes when you submit this plan.
Yes.
And it's not going to be specifics as Cynthia is suggesting, correct?
Yeah, if you were to say in the phases of construction, like, you have construction, you come back from that, you have design where you make plans that go out to bid, and before that you do studies to define the big scope of work. We're really in that early stage. There's a lot of details that have to be worked out. we just really we're just defining the scope of the project at this point.
I was hoping for a roundabout at Vine in Florida, but oh well.
Yeah, we definitely looked at that, but that it didn't work out in the economic cost benefit analysis that we did.
Okay. So anybody want to make a motion?
I move that BPAC approve this letter to be endorsed by BPAC for this project.
I'll second it.
Okay.
With minor, with such minor edits as has come up.
Can you rephrase that as
I need to see what's
BPAC
in it
supports
first. Before
BPAC
I vote
supports
for
a letter of support for the application. What is it? Raise grant
Yeah, raise
Grant, yeah.
for Urbana's raise grant application for Florida Avenue. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay. And seconded by Jeff. Okay, discussion, Cynthia?
Yeah, I need the motion to say that you will draft a letter and share it with us for our review before it is submitted.
Yeah, I don't want a car culture thing to happen.
Agree.
I agree. I have a hard time. I've seen a lot. Like, the thing is this is a once in a lifetime improvement on that street. We're never going to see this money, this infrastructure, this type of thing put in again. So it's very difficult for me, sight unseen, to say, yeah, I'll sign my name on that. Let's do it. There's obviously parts I agree with. But if the parts don't fit together, then we're just back to where we are right now. And it's not that I don't trust you. It's just,
Well, where the Florida Avenue corridor study, it isn't completed yet?
No, it's not complete. It's nearing completion, but there's going to be one more round of public involvement before completing the
What is the public
corridor
involvement?
study. Basically,
we get an opportunity to make comments.
And car people get to say, oh my gosh, don't slow us down.
Well, I will say, maybe not just car people, but I have seen intersections where they have to widen them for emergency services. And then it's, from the planner, it's like, can we narrow it so pedestrians have shorter to walk and it's safer? And then the engineers say, no, the fire truck has a turning radius of this and we can't make the turn unless it's wider. And the manual says that the cars have to go 45 miles an hour or whatever. And then you're like, oh God, why?
Yes, that's exactly my concern. I do not want to see a bigger intersection at Race and Florida. I understand there's a problem for the buses turning there. They have to pull into the oncoming traffic lanes to get around the corner to go southbound. And so that I understand. But if the entire intersection is going to be turned into a giant intersection in whatever way, I just am not comfortable saying that I agree with that. I would love for us to have the funding for this. We desperately need the funding for it. But I know the problem here is the timeline, but it just feels sprung on me and I need to see what's in it.
and I actually live half a block away from this infrastructure, and I desperately would like to be able to bike up Florida Avenue and make connections. I desperately need this to work. Even like when I'm training for running, like trying to cross my street, trying to get anywhere, the infrastructure is just not there right now. So I need this to work for me. And I also drive here, and I like how safe it is now because it's a tiny, skinny street and people have to go slow. So I don't know. It's hard. This is hard for me. I want to support it, but I have no idea what I'm signing my name to, which is not something I ever do.
Well, that's why I'm really interested in how we haven't been following the Florida Avenue corridor study more closely, because I assume that these kinds of issues were laid out in that study, which apparently is close to completion, and we should have been making these comments earlier.
I do have a question. Is the multi-use path, is that going to be part of this existing street, or is that going to be, is property going to be taken up in the yards, the southern yards along the street?
It will be off the road. It will be new. It will be behind the curb.
There's just one home on that side of the street.
Thanks
Okay.
for convincing the homeowner.
Yeah, that homeowner is supportive of it, so we're okay there.
And
Yes,
then
he's
the
a runner.
he's very much looking forward to it, I'm sure.
And the city has the right of way along with the university's engagement here. That's not the problem.
Yeah, I agree that, I mean, we don't want another Vine and Main, you know, we just don't need another, you get lost in the confusion kind of intersection. But
Where people are getting killed every year, you know, like.
I think I'm comfortable with voting for the letter of support. The letter doesn't really say, what it doesn't give details of the project. So I'm comfortable with providing a letter of support for the idea of the project being funded. And I'm a little confused about how, if there's still public input, is it just for show? I mean, if there's still this thing that RPC is doing for public input, I assume that can still have impact on the design. So
yes,
it sounds like there's still some flexibility in the design, and I'm not sure exactly how that corresponds with the granting process. But maybe they're willing to go through the extra steps of making changes if it's required.
I'd like to just offer a couple last thoughts, and one, I think it could be a thing to do if there are members of the commission that don't want to sign the letter. We don't have to state it as being from the entire commission, but just members of BPAC, and people can sign it if they feel comfortable. Another just a couple of points, and I'll be sure to share with the group information where you can learn more about it, the corridor study, and the some of the conclusions they're going at. But the configurations of these intersections are going to be the same number of lanes, the same lanes that are there right now. We're not adding lanes. That's one thing. The main reason we're not pursuing roundabouts is because that would require demolishing houses because of how large they would get. And so, the signalized intersections are not going to be substantially larger than the current intersections because we are restrained by the right of way that's there. But definitely appreciate wanting to learn more, and I will follow up and provide information to the commission.
John, that intersection at Lincoln and Florida is massive. At the Arboretum, I mean, that is just a massive intersection. They can't do a roundabout there?
Not without taking a house out.
The house on the corner, Annie, is right there. They would have to take that house. It's very tight. I think that's a problem.
The northeast corner.
Yeah.
There's like 3 corners. Yeah, there's 3 corners that are wide open and available for stealing.
You'd have to reconfigure the alignment of the north-south road to go over into the property by the dorms, and then take over some of you have to do a lot of earthwork to make that work.
It would be possible to have
but it would get rid of it.
The first week of April instead of the third week of April. I guess it's probably already been advertised. I guess I'm wondering if we could amend the motion so that, because I do think that getting that bike trail on the south side of Florida there is obviously valuable. Everybody would love that. But yeah, the nuances of the intersection design is probably what we're concerned about. Could we support it And then once we find out more about it, have the ability to withdraw our support or something, or or meet before the letter gets sent so we can give final comments or decide whether we want to do it or not. I see Lori's got her hand up.
We're getting remind us that it's
we're out of time.
Yeah, and we haven't even decided on the official motion yet.
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor. We could vote on that motion, and then if we want to, we could extend the meeting for 10 minutes. We'd have to vote on that.
Yeah.
Bill, I'm comfortable with you signing a letter of support after you've done a straw poll with us. I would vote for that.
Okay. Can Audrey? Let's see who made the motion. Audrey.
Can you clarify the motion for me, please? Because there's been a lot of discussion, and I've definitely lost what we're officially.
I move that BPAC endorse the letter of support for the RAISE grant with minor modifications that may be made subject to input to Bill Brown, the chair, and that he sign it when he's satisfied with those responses.
And Jeff seconded
I'll
it.
second that.
Okay. Could we
now I can vote for it.
Could we have a roll call on that?
All right, Bill Brown,
Yes.
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Cara Dudek,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
Yes.
Audrey Ashee,
Yes.
Susan Jones,
Yes.
Jeff Marino,
Yes.
Sartak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
John Zeman.
I was thinking maybe that sentence that we weren't going to put in might include that we have concerns.
I don't know. We just put it all on Bill. If everything's bad, he's buying us drinks forever.
It's 9:00.
So
According
Bill,
to our bylaws, we can extend the meeting if we vote on it. So does anybody want to make a motion to extend the meeting for 10 minutes, or should we call it a night?
Lori has her hand raised is my only.
Oh, Lori, is your hand still up?
Oh, it's still raised from 3 minutes ago.
You can lower it.
I move to extend things for 10 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'd second 10 minutes.
Okay, it's been moved by Sue and seconded by Annie to extend the meeting for 10 minutes. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown,
Yes.
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Cara Dudek,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
yes.
Audrey Ashee,
Yes.
Susan Jones,
Yes.
Jeff Marino,
Yes.
Sartak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
and John Zeman.
No.
Okay, that motion carries. Okay, so next is request for Traffic Commission to review Water and Vine. This was something we talked about last month. We didn't have it on the agenda, so we couldn't vote on it, but there seemed to be interest in submitting a request from BPAC to the Traffic Commission to ask them to review the intersection of Water and Vine where there was a pedestrian fatality earlier this year. In particular, with respect to the possibility of eliminating or limiting left turns from both directions on Water and coming out from Schnucks. Is that something people still want to do? And is there somebody that would like to make a motion to that effect?
Well, I move, except I can't remember what it all said.
to ask BPAC to submit a request to Traffic Commission for review of the intersection of Water and Vine.
Yes, I move that.
Okay.
I second it.
Oh, let Nancy second it.
Okay, then moved by Sue and seconded by Nancy. Any further discussion on that? Could we have a roll call?
I'll just say something real quick. I'm gonna just vote present because I'll be receiving this, so I didn't want to conflict or whatever. But and Nancy, thanks for laughing at my no vote earlier.
We all laughed.
Right. It was beautiful.
We would vote no, but we're volunteers.
Okay, so we need a roll call.
All right, Bill Brown,
Yes.
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Cara Dudek,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
Yes.
Audrey Ashee,
Yes.
Susan Jones,
Yes.
Jeff Moreno,
Yes.
Sartak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
and John is present.
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 Motion carries. Okay, so next is Cynthia going to talk about BPAC or city participation and BPAC participation in Bike Month.
Yes, I wanted to raise this issue, and it fits right in with our goals. I really feel like BPAC's members, we need to be more actively engaged in promoting bicycling, and Bike Month is a great opportunity for doing that. And Bike to School Day is May 4th, and I would really like for BPAC to be involved in that. The city, in order to be a bicycle-friendly community, we have to have supported and help put in place and implement activities. And so I'd really like to see us take more ownership of that. And so I can provide you all with information. There's a volunteer sign up. There are all kinds of ways that we can be involved. And so I just wanted to bring that to you and ask for your engagement. We could talk some more about it next month. We don't spend a lot of time on it tonight. But I really feel like it's an opportunity that we've been missing to help promote bicycling. And the same thing is true in the fall with Walk and Roll to School Day, that, and I was thinking even, maybe BPAC could have a table at the market at the square one Saturday, along with Champaign County Bikes, with information on, what we're doing in Urbana, and hand out safety information or whatever. I just think there's a lot of opportunities for us to engage with the public that way. And only 3 of us, of course, can be there at a time, but in terms of working that, something like that. But like you sign up to go and help with a school the morning of Bike and Roll to School Day, we're going to all be at different schools, so it doesn't cause any kind of a problem with the open meetings requirements. So that was what I was doing, and if we wanted to do something more formal, like pass a resolution saying we support Bike and Roll to School Day, we could do that next month. We don't need to do that this month, but I wanted to put this bug in everybody's ear, and I can send out some information to you about various things, and everybody can think about that for next month, and
Okay.
we can talk about what we want to do.
I think, and I mentioned to you too, that one thing the city could do, I don't know how many people noticed what they did in February for, what is it called? Black History Month. They did like a Facebook posting every day. It seemed like maybe it was less than that, but you'd see, local people featured in these Facebook posts. We could do something like that for Bike Month if we had some people on BPAC put together some ideas. And so it's another thing to think about over the next month of things that you might like to see in a locally flavored posting on bicycle safety or bicycle opportunities and pedestrian, same sort of thing. So, okay, that's something to think about. Any other comments on that?
Love that idea, Bill. That's great.
Yeah, so if we can carry this over as a old business next month for the agenda, then we can vote on if we want to take official action in one way or the other.
Okay.
That's it. Thanks.
Thanks. Any quick announcements in 1 minute? I saw Sartak, you're recruiting people for the pedestrian audit. If people aren't aware of that, contact Sartak.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. Seeing no further business, this meeting's adjourned.